Okay, moving right along, our next presenter is Brigadier General Nava with the New Mexico National Guard. Greetings, General.
Greetings.
Yep. And I see you brought some folks with you that you might want to introduce.
I will, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. My name is Brigadier General Ken Nava. I'm the Deputy Adjutant General for the New Mexico National Guard. On behalf of Brigadier General Salas, the Adjutant General of New Mexico, and the 4,000 Army and Air Guardsmen here in the state of New Mexico, thank you for the opportunity to come speak with you for a few minutes. It's always a great opportunity to come speak with our elected officials and to let you know what we have going on. And I'll try to make this brief but informative and tailored a little bit towards Sandoval County and what's happening with the National Guard here. As you mentioned, I have some folks with me. Lieutenant Colonel Donnie Brott is the administrative officer at the Rio Rancho facility, and with him he has Chief Warrant Officer Felipe Sosa and Staff Sergeant Ceja. These are full-time soldiers that work at the Rio Rancho facility at 4001 Northwest Loop. I'll talk a little bit about that facility. I also have with me my ESGR team, Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve. This is a very important DoD funded initiative to help employers realize what their National Guardsmen and women need in order to continue and fulfill their obligation as their militia. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Here is my agenda. I'd like to just tell you a little bit about myself, and then where is your New Mexico National Guard? What does your New Mexico National Guard do? And how can you help us? Okay, so I'm a 21-year resident of Rio Rancho. I live off of High Resort Boulevard. I can see Rio Rancho High School from my backyard, which is a perfect place. Having had 2 children graduate from Rio Rancho High School and one that is a junior at Rio Rancho High School, it's always good to keep the school in your sights. That's always a very good thing. I'm a lifelong New Mexican. I was born and raised in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I attended St. Michael's High School in Santa Fe. I went to the University of New Mexico and graduated from there. I've been in the National Guard a little over 29 years. I started in the New Mexico National Guard as a private. So I have a little bit of news to announce. Again, I mentioned that General Salas is the Adjutant General. Next month, I will be taking over. We'll be doing a change of command, and I will take over for General Salas as the Adjutant General. So for a young kid from New Mexico, starting out as a private to very soon being a major general, it's quite an accomplishment. And it's not about me, it's about these wonderful soldiers that work for me and with me. 2 of these guys here, Alric, the gentleman right here that looks like a grizzly bear, and Donnie Brott were with me in my battalion in Iraq in 2009 and 2010. So 29 years in the New Mexico National Guard. I'm a guard baby. That's what we call ourselves, guard babies. I've never been on active duty per se. I've been on active duty when deployed. So I was deployed in 2003, 2004 timeframe in Washington, D.C., and then 2009, 2010 as a battalion commander in Iraq. Very proud of being in the New Mexico National Guard. So where is your New Mexico National Guard located? Where are the major headquarters and what types of units do we have? Okay, this map is very difficult to see, but you can kind of get the gist. Everybody here is pretty familiar with the layout of New Mexico. We have major headquarters, battalion headquarters in Santa Fe, in Rio Rancho, in Albuquerque, in Farmington, in Las Cruces, and Roswell. So no real surprises there. Those are the large population centers in New Mexico. That's where we have our largest concentrations of soldiers. You see these other places that we have with little dots. We're scattered all over New Mexico. The New Mexico National Guard, we are proud of the fact that we belong to the communities. We're in the communities. We're there for the communities. You mentioned the fires. We're closely monitoring the fires. The New Mexico National Guard provides support to many forest fires and things of this nature. We're on alert right now at the beck and call of the DHSEM and those emergency managers that are out there on the fire. So We take that obligation very seriously, and this is one of the things that differentiates us between our active duty counterparts. The National Guard, we have a state responsibility as well as a federal responsibility. So that kind of gives you the layout. The Air National Guard is mostly at Kirtland Air Force Base. There are some initiatives that we're looking at to possibly get the Air National Guard at Holloman Air Force Base as well. They're getting 2 new F-16 squadrons, so that might be something that comes to fruition. But for right now, we're just at Kirtland Air Force Base with the Air Guard. All right, so what do we look like in Sandoval County? 4000 Northwest Loop. This was referred to as the Hawk site. I was a young Hawk officer 20-some years ago, and that was the first weapon system that was sited there. There was a Hawk battalion, 7th Battalion, 200th Air Defense Artillery that was there, and it was a Hawk site. So everybody kind of says, oh, that's the Hawk site. Well, it's no longer a Hawk site. There's no longer any air defense in New Mexico. And the headquarters that I have listed right here is the 111th Sustainment Brigade. This is a new unit in New Mexico. Basically, it's a logistical unit. So the Army cannot do what it does when it goes out to fight abroad without sustainment. It basically needs folks to do the logistical type support. We're talking about beans and bullets and ammunition, water, fuel, all those different things that are necessary for the combat forces to be able to do what they do. That's what the Sustainment Brigade does. It was fielded last year. From the Army's perspective, this unit should be ready by FY22. FY22. So that's what the Army has kind of got us on the hook for. That Sustainment Brigade has a Special Troops Battalion that is also headquartered there in that building. We have the 1209th Area Support Medical Company. So this is a company that does medical support. So we have medics there, and they are basically, it's a very capable unit that's there. We have 2 rifle companies from our infantry battalion. We have Alpha and Bravo Company. These are infantrymen, light infantry, so they don't have trucks or mechanized type things. They walk and they carry their weapons. That's what these guys do. But we have 2 companies there. The 64th Civil Support Team. This is referred to as our Weapons of Mass Destruction. This is a full-time force. There are 22 soldiers on the 64th CST. They just went through an evaluation by the Army North. In fact, I just left that briefing to come here, and they are extremely professional. They were evaluated at the highest level of every single area that the Army evaluates them on. They were, we call it a T, trained, fully trained, and they did incredible work. These guys are at the beck and call of our law enforcement professionals throughout the state. If there was let's say, an unknown substance that showed up somewhere, these are the guys that would analyze it and figure out what it is. They are also they're experts with chemical, biological, and radiological type things. They're part of a larger national enterprise, but this is our team. New Mexico has 1 team, and they will go throughout the state. They will also help regionally when there is requirement regionally. We have a field maintenance shop. So these are mechanics. These are light and heavy wheel mechanics. They also have different types of specialties there. They have electronics technicians. They have ordnance technicians. They have different types of maintenance type things. This is our largest maintenance facility in the state. So when we look at the equipment density throughout the state of New Mexico, this is the one that does the most work. So there are full-time technicians. There are civil servants that work there, and they do a great job for us. And then we have the 515th Regional Training Institute that does some training there. You may see at times large commercial trucks. They look like the regular commercial trucks that you would see out on the highways, except they're painted green. We are training our soldiers how to use those trucks, and we use that 60-acre facility there to help them do some of that training. Now, there may be one unit I forgot here. Do we have a transportation? No, they're gone. Signal. I forgot about our signal company. 3631st Signal Company. This is another brand new unit to New Mexico. And so if you think about high-tech communications, satellite dishes, and all that high-tech stuff, that's what these guys have. And they are an organic part of the 111th Sustainment Brigade. So they are the way that the Sustainment Brigade does its command and control on the battlefield. So internet, all that kind of stuff, they can provide that with their systems. So that's what we look like in Sandoval County. This building is overcrowded. If you go there on a drill weekend, you're going to see people parked out all over Northwest Loop. Everywhere it's just crammed. It is not sufficient for us, and this is an area that we're working on. This is one of our initiatives to increase the footprint of that square footage of that facility. simply not adequate for the numbers of soldiers that we have in there. So there's some things that we're looking at, and I was the commander of that unit, so but it's really overcrowded, very, very overcrowded. So what do? We talked about the federal mission. The federal mission of the National Guard is to basically go fight and win America's wars, go when the president calls us. We have the state mission to protect New Mexico's citizens and properties when necessary. This is this and a lot more words, but again, defend the United States, lives and property. And then we have this third fold mission where we want to build communities, build our communities. We're from New Mexico, so we are not some transplants that came here. We are from New Mexico. We want New Mexico to be successful. And I'll talk a little bit about that because there's some things that I'm going to ask for your help with regards to that. So again, we have soldiers, airmen, state employees, state defense force, and our Civil Air Patrol. Civil Air Patrol doesn't really belong to us, but the Adjutant General gets funding to help these guys with their training proficiency and to help them out, so they kind of get tucked underneath us. They're actually missioned out of the Air Force. It's an Air Force auxiliary, Air Force Reserve, I guess auxiliary is the right word, but in each state they fall under the Adjutant General for some reasons, and for us it's for funding for their training proficiency. Okay. All right, this is a little wire diagram that's very interesting. Skip over this. Over 6,000 deployments since 9/11. So the New Mexico National Guard, New Mexico in general has a very proud military legacy. The New Mexico National Guard has had over 6,000 individual deployments since 9/11. That's the largest ever. In World War II, we had large numbers of New Mexico National Guard deployed, but since 9/11, this is the largest deployments that we've had. This is the state mission. So these are some examples of things that have happened here. We do water haul missions for those communities that have, the tank, the well, something has gone out in their individual community, we'll haul water to them. We've helped with fires all over the state of New Mexico, from the very largest fires to the smallest fires. The New Mexico State Police, on occasion, their tactical team needs quick transportation from point A to point B. We'll provide that with our UH-60 helicopters. Search and rescue. Our medevac company that's located in Santa Fe, they are always picking up folks that are stranded on the side of a mountain somewhere or fallen in the gorge, that they can't be found, and so we go help find them using our forward-looking infrared. The search and rescue is one of the things that we're very proud of that we do. Flood mitigation. So after the fire, you have a burn scar, you have uncontrolled flooding, we help with that sometimes. That's a pretty good slide there. All right. Okay, this is one of the ones that I wanted to talk to you about. So I have a gentleman right here. So Elric was the director of the Youth Challenge Academy for a couple of years. Youth Challenge is it's a National Guard Bureau program. It's 75% funded by the feds, 25% funded by the state of New Mexico. It is a 22-week in-resident program located in Roswell, New Mexico, for kids between the ages of 16 and 18 years old. So those young New Mexicans that drop out of high school, this is a program to give them a second chance. Now there is some criteria they have to meet. They can't be in big trouble with the law. They have to be drug-free. It's voluntary. They have to want to do it. But their parents, their families, whatever resources they have, they can put this kid in there for 22 weeks, and they're going to get self-discipline. They're going to get the opportunity to get their high set, which is their GED equivalent. They're going to get an opportunity to get up to 23 hours of college credit from Eastern New Mexico University. They're going to learn discipline. They're going to learn how to take care of themselves. They're going to learn how to interact with other people. It's an incredible program. But that's just the first part of it. The second part is 1 year with a mentor to make sure that they stay on track to the plan that they developed. It's a great program. It's fantastic. Here's the shame. Here's the problem. We have we're going to have a graduation tomorrow. I'm going down to Roswell for their graduation banquet and their graduation on Saturday. And I'm so proud of these kids. When you see them, they take a before and after picture. And the before picture and the after picture, they don't even look like the same person. They look like totally different people. It's a physical transformation. There's 170 beds in a very beautiful barracks that was just built there on the old Walker Air Base. I'm graduating 92 kids tomorrow, or Saturday, 92 kids. Yeah, the 92 kids, it's fantastic. But I want to know why there isn't 170 kids in there. And why isn't there 170 on a wait list, right? So in the state, as was mentioned by Commissioner Block, in a state with such a bad dropout rate, it's really unacceptable that we don't have this thing busting at the seams. The problem that I should have is going back to the National Guard Bureau saying, hey, I got to grow this thing. I got to double the size. Or I need another program. Or I need another couple programs. There are some states that have multiple programs, but they're not going to entertain me seeking more funding until I can show the demand, until I can show that we have exceeded the requirements of this facility. So that's an area I would like your help with. So if you look at this map shows where the kids are coming from. And let's see, Sandoval County.
73.
Yeah, 73, not too bad. That's respectable. Look at San Juan County. The Navajo Nation, those people up there, they got it figured out. Look at Bernalillo County. Here's the thing. With the numbers of people that we have here going to Rio Rancho High School, Cleveland High School, the kids that are dropping out from there, I don't want the kids to drop out. Our first preference is they stay in. We want them to graduate. But the kids that do drop out, we want them to have this chance. This is an opportunity. It's an incredible opportunity. There's a young lady at the 377th Air Base Wing at Kirtland Air Force Base. She's a captain. She's an MD. She works at the hospital. She was a Youth Challenge graduate out of Georgia. There are some incredible success stories of young people, and we can provide that for them here. So that's one of the areas that I would like your help. I'd like to get the word out about this. I've been working with PED. I've been working with the governor's staff, and I'm going to continue to pursue that. But this is an area that we could really use some help. We need to get some kids from Sandoval County in this program. Again, 22 weeks in residence, the parents don't pay anything. They give them they put like 100, how much is their incidental thing they got to give them? Like 100 bucks?
150 bucks.
150 bucks. They write a $150 check, they send it over there. If the kid needs tennis shoes or they need something, they use that $150. But other than that, food, clothing, board, room and board, all taken care of by this program. It's really an incredible program. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk to you briefly about is the New Mexico Military Museum presented by the New Mexico National Guard. So we have a museum. It's at 1050 Old Pecos Trail in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's the only free museum that you can go to in Santa Fe. And yeah, it's the only free one. But we want to tell the story of New Mexico. New Mexico has an incredible military legacy. And there is no place that tells that entire story. So everything from our Native American warriors that were here before the Spanish, to the Spanish that settled this area, to every single conflict that America's been in, there have been New Mexico militiamen in those conflicts, every single one of them. We have great stories, Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders, we have the Navajo Code Talkers, you have the Buffalo Soldiers. There is so much stuff that needs to be told to our future generations and preserved and told for them. So we'd like to do that. And so we're starting out this effort to expand, because for the longest time it's only been about the National Guard. We still want to tell the National Guard story, but in the context of New Mexico's story. So as we further develop this, we have a beautiful case statement that we've put together. As we further develop this, we'll come to you and let you know what we're doing and how you might be able to help us with that effort. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I stand for any questions that you might have in any of the material that I presented.
Thank you very much, General Nava. I know you're going to ask some questions. Who wants to go first? Commissioner Heil?
Sure. Thank you for being here this evening. I have a couple comments. One is you are expanding what we historically call the Hawk site. You have a fantastic ropes course at the site that was a joint effort between Sandoval County and the National Guard.
Yes, sir.
And it maybe hasn't been used as much as it should have been recently, but I can assure you that Director Ryan for Community Services Organization and myself are enthusiastic about working with our Sheriff's Office and the Fire Department, etc., to find more use. And it's a great tool for personal and team development that we would like to be sure that you help us maintain as you're looking to expand that facility.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Heil, I think the biggest thing that we have with that ropes course, it's been there for a very long time. As you mentioned, it was a great initiative that was partnered between the New Mexico National Guard and this body. I think that we need to look at the maintenance of that ropes course to make sure that everything is up to snuff. And then let's figure out how we get to use it more and let folks come out and use it, of course, under the guidance of the Commission and or the New Mexico National Guard. Because the original MOU that we had was that we would get some National Guardsmen certified. Now, we've had lots of turnover and whatnot. I think it's an area that we can revisit. Again, I think my safety guys, when they look at this, we want to make sure it's all safe and good to go, certified, and not a risk or liability to Sandoval County and or the National Guard. But I agree with you. It's a great asset for the county and for others that would come to use it. So we just need to relook that. So you have my commitment. We'll relook that.
Thank you. The next item is also within our community service organization. We have a juvenile justice board. And it would seem to me that in terms of spreading the word, that would be a very good place to get the word out about your program in Roswell. And thirdly, you talk about college credit for this program. Could you explain that a little more to me? Because I might have an idea that could help.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Heil, yes. So the instructors that teach these students, both for their high set and for the certifications that they receive, are Eastern New Mexico University instructors. So we contract with the university for several things. We contract with them for their feeding at their university's cafeteria, and we contract with them for these instructors. So the kids they can kind of pick something that they want to go into. If they're interested in phlebotomy, then they'll get a certificate for phlebotomy. If they're interested in mechanics, then they'll work with a mechanic and get a basic level certification that will eventually lead to ASI certifications. So there's different things that they can choose that they want to go through. But they're receiving classes, basically recovery classes, to get them back on track. And not that they will receive 23 hours, but they can potentially receive up to 23 hours if they apply themselves.
I'm on the board of the retired Rear Admiral O. Douglas Schumann Foundation. And the purpose of the foundation is to help people in Sandoval County pursue their education. It's when the Rear Admiral set this up before his passing, it needs to be used for first, Sandoval County residents, and second, for higher education. So there may be a way that if we could talk further, that we could find a way to help fund some of the participation in this for students from Sandoval County.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Heil, so then what I'm hearing you say, that a young person from Sandoval County that went to this program and maybe acquired 23 hours of college credit and had plans to pursue higher education and continue that, could possibly apply for a grant from this foundation to continue their education. That's fantastic.
Yes.
I love it. Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Arnquist?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. General Nat'l, I just want to kind of bring up the issue because sometimes Sandoval County is a lot of times just looked at as Rio Rancho, and you just mentioned Cleveland and Rio Rancho High School. Well, we have Cuba schools, we have Hennis Valley schools, we have Wauwatola, we have Bernalillo schools, and all these schools, there's a lot of kids that never make it out of high school. And I'm not sure if you're getting into these schools, are you getting into these other schools, or are you just concentrating on Rio Rancho?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Commissioner Eichwald, so this is the problem that we're having. And this could be an area where I couldn't tell you specifics about the schools here. I can tell you that in APS, I have a very difficult time getting my recruiters in there. People believe because it's National Guard centric program that we're trying to brainwash these kids into joining the National Guard. That is not the case, not even closest. So I couldn't tell you specifics about the schools in Sandoval County, and I thank you for correcting me about the other communities, because I understand Sandoval County is much bigger. Some of them, the smaller schools, are very welcoming to us. And really our point of entry is with the counselors. The smaller schools are generally very welcoming to us. You'll note the map shows most of the smaller schools, smaller communities are they're using it. It's usually the bigger schools that we have trouble with. So my approach now has been to go to the public education department and try to work from that level and say, look, I just want the names and addresses of the kids that have dropped out. We'll contact them. We'll contact their families and try to get them the information. But that part has been the part that's we're missing right now. We are not getting all the kids, the families of these kids, the information that they need. We're not forcing them to do it. We're just giving them an option. And so we could certainly appreciate any help you can give us to get into the schools. But I don't believe it's the smaller schools that are problems. It's the bigger schools generally.
And I beg to differ a little bit, because being from that community, I know that like from Cuba, there's a lot of kids that drop out. And I applaud you for your program. I think it's that, you know, the higher education that you're trying to provide for these kids is, some of these kids just don't have the resources to go for higher education without somebody else doing something for them. I think this program would be, you know, work real well for some of the kids out of the smaller communities.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Blunt.
Yeah, let me go first.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Dominguez. I didn't know you guys had that worked out.
Mr. Nava, I think I was actually in the same line as Mr. Nyquil. One question I had is, how do you guys work with any of the ROTCs? I know that you mentioned Freedom and stuff like that, and how can we get that generated to be able to keep kids in school? In Bernalillo, for instance, only because that's my district, and I know they had a really high dropout rate, and I mean, you guys with your program would fit perfectly in. But I'd like to see more of an active of an ROTC or something that can again, not brainwash them, but be able to keep them in school and know the opportunities that are there for the teachers. So,
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Dominguez, the ROTC program in our high schools really is not part of the National Guard at all. We do help them out. It's part of the Army's program or the service components, so the Navy, the Air Force, they have their own programs, junior ROTC. So that's not, we have no play, zero play in that at all. The funding that we receive from the federal government is really to fight and win America's wars. There's very specific congressional language about how we use that money and how we train with it, and being in the schools is not part of it. This Youth Challenge program, however, does have its own line of funding from Congress to help and authorize us to do this effort. And so this is really, it's a second chance effort. It's not really, although I'm telling you, I want kids to stay in school, that's not what this program is about. It's about giving the kids that have dropped out that second chance. So again, with the young men and women from Bernalillo, we'd love to get this information to them. And again, I do believe that those schools are getting the information. I'll get you the information, the exact breakdowns by community where these kids are coming from. But I do believe we're having success in Bernalillo. We've had previous success in Cuba. But I'll get you those numbers.
and again, I just want to thank you for your presentation. It's awesome. It's great. I think there's a lot of ideas, a lot of communication with our youth programs, so with the youth itself. So again, I just want to thank you for your presentation. Also, thank you.
Commissioner Blunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I've been waiting a long time as a lieutenant colonel to question a 1-star. So that's pretty cool.
Go easy.
Yeah, I'll go easy. No, General, thank you for being here, and thank you to your troops. Wish you had some airmen here, but thank you to your troops for being here as well. I see that you deployed to Iraq. I'm sure they deployed as well, as I did to Afghanistan. So thank you for your service. I'm still trying to figure out the grizzly bear over there, because
He was an Air Force guy.
he had 13 years Air Force, then went into the Army. I don't know if he hit his head or something. But yeah. I'm still trying to figure that one out. If I could just talk to you a minute, General, regarding the Rio Rancho facility. Can you tell me the total number of troops that are stationed, assigned at the Rio Rancho facility?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Commissioner Block, I believe it's over 700 that are at that facility.
So 700, so that's quite an economic impact that your troops make to the, not just Rio Rancho, but Sandoval County. Do you happen to know what the economic impact is of that facility to this county?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Block, I don't have that information available to me right now, but we do an annual economic impact statement, and I do have that information broken down by county, and I'd be glad to furnish that.
I would love to see that. And the reason why is it makes me a little bit nervous when I hear the facility is overcrowded, and then I hear, well, you know, is there a new one planned, or are you looking at potentially moving certain units out of the Rio Rancho facility to somewhere else in the state, and that affects us, and it affects families as well. So have you heard of any type of renovation or additions to the facility, or a new facility, or you plan on moving?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Block, members of the board, no, we're not planning on moving. That facility will remain an enduring facility with the New Mexico National Guard. There are 60 plus acres there that have been designated as a training site for the New Mexico National Guard. Our civil support team, which is again 100% federally funded, 22-man team is stationed there. That's where their headquarters is. That's where all their infrastructure is. So there's no danger of opening that facility. There has been a design charrette that's been done to do a what-if analysis. What would it look like if we expanded out that facility? There has been no military construction or sustainment readiness dollars appropriated for anything there yet.
So no MILCON?
No MILCON. No MILCON, but it's usually a 5 to 7 year process for us to get things in there. So the way the National Guard works is we compete different facilities at the national level for that MILCON funding. And there is a MILCON project that we have submitted for competition around that field maintenance shop, around expanding that facility. Again, I tell you that's the largest one we have in New Mexico. So there is potential bright spots out there in the future, but nothing has been committed yet.
How old is that facility, sir?
It was put in service in the early 1990s, I'd say probably 1991 timeframe.
You know, you talked about your civil support team. I take it it's not just WMD, we call it CBRNE. I'm sure you call it the same thing. Do you guys have any type of partnership with Kirtland, or I know you guys are really under the Ditcher guys overall, but there's Ditcher here, Kirtland, and some other stuff there. Do you do any partnership with them?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Block, yes, we do partner with Kirtland. We conduct regular exercises with them. Obviously, there's a lot of things in Kirtland that would interest us in the ability to detect. So yes, we do train with them on a regular basis. Again, we would be, just like any other asset to them, if they had some type of thing that required a response, we would be available for that response.
So you guys would like doing IRF or something like that? And looking at chart 11, sir, I see you have a lot of HELA support. Is there a certain, this is just my own education, being an Air Force guy, but you have to have a certain number of required hours to stay currency, like a general there as a fighter pilot guy. You guys having a hard time making your hours flying?
No, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Block, members of the board, no problem at all maintaining the hours to fly. We have a medevac company that's stationed in Santa Fe with 9 UH-60 helicopters. Some of them are Alpha models and some of them are Lima models. Some of them are Alpha Plus models. But that doesn't mean anything to you really. Alpha is the first generation of the UH-60s, and then they add a letter as they go down. So the Lima models are more modern.
Yeah, like a B-52, right, George?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're up to the H model right now.
And then we have 4 helicopters down in Las Cruces, which are LUH Lakota helicopters. And they're primarily used along the border, assisting the Customs and Border Control. Okay. So no, we have no problem at all keeping our currency or flying our annual flight.
So you do border patrol operations?
We assist with them, yes.
I'll have to talk to you about that after. The Youth Challenge Academy, like Commissioner Heil talked about, really intrigues me. For a couple reasons. One, I have a 17-year-old son who's not a dropout, but I'd like to send him down to you. But we'll work on that. I've never heard of it before. I think it's a great program. I'm just kind of curious. You know, I have a Facebook page. I can throw it out on my Facebook page, but I would really be interested in seeing what the metrics are. I mean, I understand there's an Air Force MD captain down at Kirtland who did it back in Georgia or something like that. I'm kind of curious what number one, what you call success coming out of there. To me, is you get the GED and you get some college credit and you go off and you do great things, and hopefully you're not going through the criminal justice system, because that's a failure.
Sure.
And I'm sure that you guys down there scare the bejesus out of those kids when they get there, break them down and.
We call it quasi-military.
Yeah, well, yeah, I still have nightmares from my time there, but you build them back up. They work as a team. They lead motivated. So I think you're training instructors for what they do down there. It would have been nice to see some metrics of how that works. But I share Commissioner Dominguez and Commissioner Eichwald. This is really a great program. And I don't know if you, as a magistrate judge, previously heard of this program where some of these kids can go, or you have, Commissioner Dominguez. I've never heard of it. I think it's a fantastic program. We can help get the word out through various media platforms. So appreciate that. And then I think lastly, what I just wanted to talk to you about was the New Mexico Military Museum, and what that reminds me of. And, you know, we have a lot of heritage here in Sandoval County. You know, you and I were down in the lobby, and you saw, you know, basically it's a shrine to our veterans here in Sandoval County. We have a fantastic history here in Sandoval County. We also have the first women combat veterans in the United States military from Sandoval County. And when I look at this military museum, I immediately think of the National D-Day Museum that Stephen Ambrose started and put in New Orleans at an old factory that built LSTs, Higgins boats, if I remember right. And what they did there at that museum, and I don't know if you guys are doing this, but they would reach out to veterans across the country to get their stories of what they did on June 6, 1944. And I don't know if you guys are reaching out to New Mexico veterans, but I mean, I've seen so many articles in the Rio Rancho Observer recently regarding our history as veterans and what they did for our country. Because there's a lot of family members out there that they probably have some of these you know, artifacts or shadow boxes or uniforms or whatever of their loved one, their great-grandfather, their grandfather. I have my grandfather's U.S. Navy uniform from World War II. You know, you donate those type of things and it really personalizes that museum and tells a story like you rightly said, sir. And I don't know if you're doing that, but I would recommend, I think a lot of people would love to see their family's history in a museum for years to come to show fellow New Mexicans, generations down the road, you know, what General Nava did for the country in Iraq and serving 29 years in the New Mexico National Guard. I think that's very important. And the last thing I would ask is, you talked about the flying tacos. Are they thinking about going down to Holloman, or what's the story there?
Well, no, they're not going to be going down to Holloman. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Block, what's happening is there are 2 squadrons of F-16s that are moving to Holloman Air Force Base. They belong to ATC, so they're going to be doing training.
Yeah.
And so
we just lost one recently.
Right. So we're offering to the Air Force, the National Guard would like to help with that. We'd like to get into that. We think we have some expertise that can be used and applied there. It's really happening whether the tacos are involved in it or not. It's those 2 squadrons are coming to Holloman. That basing decision has been made, and so they're coming. So we'd like to just be
kind of like augment them as IPs.
That's
what you're saying.
That's right.
Okay, very good. General, again, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your service. Thank you to your troops back there, and especially thank you to your troops here in Rio Rancho, where I live, all 700 of them, and what they do for not just our state, but our country. And I salute you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Block. General, I want to thank you for coming in this evening and sharing with us what the New Mexico National Guard is doing here in New Mexico, and not only that, but here in Sandoval County. I'd be remiss not to thank also my P&Z Commissioner, Dan Stoddard, for initiating that first meeting where I got to meet these fine gentlemen, and then we were able to subsequently put this meeting together. And so I appreciate you being here tonight and sharing with us what it is you're doing. The youth program, I think, is an awesome thing. 22 weeks is an ambitious program. Having had my oldest daughter go into the Air Force out of high school, and she was only in there for 8 weeks when they straightened her out. It's funny when they get to a certain age, 16, 17, this is just absolutely the right thing for them. And in fact, I got to tell you a personal story. I almost passed out the day my daughter graduated in Blackwood Air Force Base in San Antonio, and I saw her in that uniform, and I saw her out there marching. But what got me was when she said, "Yes, sir." I hadn't heard that in a long time. And so I'm grateful. I can assure you that the U.S. Air Force had a very positive impact on my oldest daughter. She's now master's degree and has a very nice job with Texas Children's Hospital over in Houston, so it paid off big time. I want to thank Lieutenant Colonel Brock. I want to thank Mr. Elric. I want to thank Mr. Rodriguez. And in fact, I wanted to invite Mr. Rodriguez up, but before I do that, because I want him to tell us about ESGR a little bit more if that's possible. But there was something that I was expecting to be in your presentation, but it's not in here, so I got to ask you about it. I would like for you to share with the commission tonight the community thing that you're going to do next month, if I'm right, at your facility here in Rio Rancho. Is it not next month, in July?
We're going to talk about
Okay.
it.
Oh, okay, they're going to cover it? Okay, great. Well,
Is the ball Smith, sir?
Oh, very good. Oh, yes, yeah.
yeah, because I think everybody in the room would like to hear about what it is you're going to do. And then also, I'd like to share with you the fact that Commissioner Eichwald suggested, and I think it's really a good idea, that maybe going forward, you consider having a presence at the Sandoval County Fair, which takes place out in Cuba, and that would be a way to reach a lot of these young kids out there in that part of the county. I think last year the attendance at the county fair was upwards of 5,000 folks, so there's a lot of people that go to this. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but the county actually operates a juvenile jail in Cuba where we incarcerate, unfortunately, people of this age group who are going down the wrong path. And that would be another good place maybe to spread the word at the AMI facility where the county operates this facility there, and we can help you with that. I also think that it would be appropriate for the county to consider a link to your information on our county website. I'd like to put that on our list of initiatives to get done because I think it would be a good thing to have so that folks out there, believe it or not, we have a summer youth employment program too here at the county that we support. And I think this year there's like 125 kids that are in this program. But I can almost assure you that some of those kids that don't get chosen for that program might consider yours. So 22 weeks though, I just can't get over that. 22 weeks, I mean, you could really make an impression on these youngsters with that amount of time. So it sounds like a very good program, and I wish there was a way, maybe that we could fund these kids, especially if they come from homes where they can't do the $150 thing, that are going to go through the program down in Roswell.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, so challenge taken will be at the Sandoval County Fair. I promise you, I have a bunch of do-outs here that we're going to follow up on and take care of.
Nice.
The $150 is not a showstopper. If there is a family that wants to put their young man or woman in there, and they can't come up with $150, there's a nonprofit foundation that supports the Youth Challenge program. So that $150 is not a showstopper.
Ah, beautiful.
For those kids in New Mexico that could benefit from this program, really the challenge is, let's get the word out to them and their families, give them the opportunity. If they want to take us up on this challenge, and it's difficult. 22 weeks is it's difficult.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a physical transformation for these young men and women that you can see from when they first arrive and when they leave. It's
Sure.
amazing.
Sure. And I was really pondering the whole thing about, Sandoval County and the number of kids that we have that go through this program that you have, and the dropout rate, and trying to make an analogy as to why our numbers are lower here than some of the other counties. And my explanation, sir, is that we have lower dropout rates in Sandoval County than some of the other counties. There's no question. There's no question we do. We have great high schools here in the county, not just in Rio Rancho, that's for sure. So anyway, that might be part of the explanation as to why. So if Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Albrecht are going to come up and talk about ESGR, I think that'd be great, unless there's another question.
One more question, Mr. Chairman. Probably the most important question I have for you journalists on slide 10, and you have a number here that says over 6,000 deployments since 9/11. Is that 6,000 men and women deployed, or is that 6,000 tasking order? You can task 6,000 different
6,000 individual deployments. So when you have a unit, so for example, my headquarters that I took to Iraq had 78 people with me. So 78, that would be 78 of that 6,000. Donnie Brock deployed 2 times.
I was going to ask how many people have double, triple tapped.
So we have several people that have been double, triple tapped. We have I think the highest numbers of deployments, some individuals were like 5 deployments. So it's been very difficult for us, right? It's been very hard. Recently, last couple of years, they called the operations tempo, the op tempo has dropped off quite a bit. Right now, we have some individuals, just individual augmentees that are deployed overseas, no units. And we have potentially 1 unit later on this year that might be looking at a rotation, a small unit to Afghanistan.
And we'll talk about that because that obviously affects our civilian employment. I guess a tough question to ask is how many did come back and how many were Purple Hearts?
We have, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Block, I believe we have about 12 Purple Hearts. I have to double check that number for you. We have 1 soldier that was killed in combat, Sergeant Marshal Alan Westbrook. He was killed on October 1st, 2005. I was the casualty assistance officer for his family. He was a sergeant in the 126th Military Police Company. He was a gunner on a Humvee and was killed in Iraq, in Baghdad. And so he's the only one that was killed in combat. We've had others that passed away while in theater of natural causes, heart attack, things of that nature. But Alan Westbrook was the only one that was killed. He's from Farmington. Unfortunately, his family suffered another death. His brother, Sergeant First Class Kenneth Westbrook, died a few years later after action in Afghanistan. So that family had double 2 casualties as a result of the war.
2 Gold Stars.
2 Gold Star family.
Thanks.
All right, so I will get out and let Ernie and Alric come up here and talk to you about ESG.
Thank you, General.
Thank you very much for your time. Sir, thanks, appreciate it.
Good evening, Sharon. Thank you for having us today. We passed out some literature. Employer support of the Guard and Reserve was initially designed to help our Guard and Reservists when they had issues with employment. There's federal laws that protect them while they deploy and go to training. And our office helps the employer navigate these federal laws to help and instruct them in what they need to do for our troops. And so with that, we have ombudsmen throughout the state of New Mexico that handle those cases when it comes up, if we have an employer that is not educated on those federal laws. So that was mainly our main mission for employer support of the Guard and Reserve, as we call it, ESGR. But it's great now that we have more support here in New Mexico and we do more recognition and education than we do handling issues. And so that's where this event that you were talking about, and we call it a boss lift. And this boss lift educates these employers about what our Guard and Reservists do on that weekend training and or deployments. So we gather up employers from that unit, like now that we're doing Sandoval County, Rio Rancho, Bernalillo area. We're inviting employers to come to Rio Rancho on July 15th, and we are going to brief them. I'm sorry, the 14th. They'll be briefed by generals and colonels of those different units that General Nava talked about those specifically, what we do for not only the state of New Mexico, but for our nation. And it gives a really good insight of what their troops and their employees do and what they bring to the table when they go back to work. And we're fortunate enough, you asked about how some of these pilots do some of their training hours, flight hours. Well, we combine with them and actually provide a short incentive flight on that helicopter to our employers. And it's a win-win situation because the pilots need that flight time that we talked about, and they get that flight, and those employers get a nice incentive flight on that Black Hawk. And it's a gee whiz, say, hey, I didn't realize that my employee is doing all this work, whether it's the CST or field maintenance or whatever they're working on. And we treat them to a nice lunch with more briefings and more education about what we do for the state of New Mexico. And Al is part of our team out here in Rio Rancho that has gathered a lot of employers from the surrounding area that's helping us with that. Is there any questions that we'd like to?
Well, before you have your questions, I'd like to say one thing. So, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. So, as Ernie said earlier, on the 14th of July, Friday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're doing our boss lift. So, the chairman has been invited, and he said he will be there. I would also like to take the opportunity to invite all of you to come down and see what it is that our guardsmen do here in the state and your unit here in the Rio Rancho, Bernalillo area. So it would be nice if all of you can come down with the chairman. So we'll start at 08 and we'll do the demonstrations, and we also have the flight, like Ernie said earlier, we're going to do the boss lift, the flights on the medevac. It'll be about a good 15-20 minute flight. If you want to do that, though, I need some paperwork from you that I got to get doing. And it would be nice if you guys can persuade the chairman to do the flight as well. But if you can't make the presentation at 8 o'clock, then come down. He gave me a little look. So come down for the luncheon, which starts at noon. So if you can't come down at 8, at least come down for the luncheon at noon.
At 11 o'clock.
At 11, and come down and sit down and have lunch with some of the soldiers that will be there, and some of the other employers that will be there as well.
What's the event called again?
Boss lift. Boss lift.
And we call it a lift because we're taking them up in a
Yeah.
helicopter and giving them a ride. And we, by the way, this organization, ESGR, is in all 50 states doing the same thing, educating employers throughout the states.
And the location is where, I'm sorry, the Rio Rancho facility?
Correct.
4001 Northwest Loop.
The Hawk.
The Hawk. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, questions from the commission? Gentlemen, not interested in a helicopter ride, are you? Or a Black Hawk?
Come join us for lunch.
They can take you up and you can rappel that.
Hot tamales will be catering our food for that day.
Ooh,
Hot tamales.
hot tamales, oh, in Rio Rancho.
Right.
Ah, okay. All right, I got it on the calendar. Fridays are, a bit dicey, but we're gonna make an exception. I'm only gonna go if I got another commissioner who's gonna go with me.
No, I have too many helicopter jokes, it's probably not appropriate here, so.
Commissioner Heil will be there. He's gonna do the ropes course while he's there.
There you go.
All right.
As long as you're the first one on the pity pole.
On the video, I don't know what that is. I'm almost afraid to ask. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here tonight, and appreciate your presentation. And before you guys let go, I want to shake your hands again.
Thank you, sir.